Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon to everyone. So it's already 6, so I thought we proceed lah. Okay, sebab kita pun ada limited time. Okay, so before we start, I would like to remind everybody to mark your attendance through Putra Blast. Okay, please mark your attendance through Putra Blast. Okay, so last week we stopped at research problem, right? So we stop here. So this week we proceed with research questions. So research question, which is RQ. Okay, so research question ni, it is related to the specific queries researchers want to answer in addressing a research problem. So this is the general description regarding the RQ. What is RQ? Okay, so research question guide the types of data to be collected in the study. So meaning that the way you write your research question, subject to the type of data to be collected. Okay, if you are interested to collect a numeric data, then we have a specific style for. Alamak, salah tekan pula. Okay, if you are interested to collect data on numeric form, so we have a specific style. But if let's say you are interested to collect data in terms of wording, then therefore we have wording, meaning that in terms of explanation, so then we have a specific style as well. Okay, and then the type of research you are conducting will influence the RQ you ask. So meaning that, okay, the design that you are interested to proceed with your study will influence the type of research question that you will write or ask in your proposal or in your dissertation. So a good research question in general should also be specific and clear about the concept it addresses. But for qualitative study, mungkin dia ada sedikit variance lah kat sini. Okay, sebab in qualitative study, because by the nature we are exploring, so probably we might not know in details regarding the findings that we might get from our informant. Okay, so let's look at for one by one for quantitative research question. Kita tengok dulu satu-satu. Okay, quantitative research question ni is a type of quantitative research question ni we can divide into two. Okay, either it is descriptive research question or explanatory question. Okay, either it is descriptive or explanatory. So it is related to, later on we are going to discuss with related to objective. By the way, for quantitative study, your research question just reflect your research objective. Okay, for quantitative research question, it just reflect your research objective. For example, if you have 4 research objective later on, okay, then for research question, you just recreate from your research objective tu, you just transfer or transform into question form. Okay, kalau you all ada research objective 4, then RQ pun ada 4. Biasanya terbalikkan saja for quantitative. Okay, for descriptive question ni, it is quantitative Agustin, can you mute your mic? Unless you have question to ask, Kalau tak saya terkejut, bila terkejut kan takut terlupa. Okay. Okay, so descriptive research question will often ask for figures such as percentage, sums, and average. So generally, when we construct our objective or research question for quantitative researcher, you can already reflect what are the types of statistical analysis to be used. So that's why when you attending the research method class, so I do hope that you already have some understanding on data analysis. Okay, sebab for quantitative researcher, even though you are proposing your proposal, even you are proposing your research, but you should already be able to reflect, okay, the type of objective with what will be the plan or the future analysis for your objective, according to your objective, kalau quantitative research. But for qualitative researcher, I don't think that they might have any problem related to data analysis, because after all, they just need to do the data analysis by themselves. Either they just use to assist or you do the analysis by yourself. Itu sahaja untuk qualitative. But for quantitative, you should have the knowledge regarding data analysis. Okay, in terms of the types of descriptive ni, it will reflect the descriptive, how we are going to describe the variable. Okay, so describe a descriptive question may only include one variable in which you describe just one variable, such as for example, the mean, mode, median, percentage, frequency. Itu for example of descriptive, because descriptive question ni will be linked to descriptive statistical analysis, descriptive analysis. Okay, maksudnya when we report our finding on descriptive question ni, okay, our finding ni will be in descriptive forms. Okay, and then when asking a descriptive question, we cannot investigate causal relationship between variables. So that is why when we mention our first objective, for example, to determine the level of employee engagement, for example, we are not interested to investigate the causal relationship based on this descriptive statistic. Faham Make sure you are able to differentiate between descriptive and inferential statistic. Okay, sebab kat sini dia akan reflect sekali. Okay, so second one, explanatory question. Okay, so explanatory question ni tries to build nomothetic causal relationship. Maksudnya based in explanatory question ni, we will ask question related to causal relationship. So for example, what is the relationship between work-family conflict and work engagement among operators in manufacturing industry? For example, so in our statement, in our research question statement for explanatory ni, we highlight both our IVs and DV, and then we also highlight the target population of our study. For example, the operators in manufacturing industry. Okay, and then the intention for explanatory question ni is to make generalization as well. Maksudnya kita ada purpose bila kita state the explanatory question ni, kita memang ada purpose dalam kajian kita untuk kita buat generalization. So generalization ni is not applicable for quantitative descriptive question. It is not applicable. It is only applicable for explanatory question that apply the causal relationship between variables. Okay, so make sure when you prepare the explanatory question, you must include the independent variable and dependent variable, and then the target population as well. Okay, you can include what is your IV, DV, and then your population as well. Okay, itu untuk explanatory question. Okay, so these are the example, example of research question for quantitative research. For example, sample question, what are the internal and external effects or problem associated with children witnessing domestic violence? For example, so if you prepare this question, so dia punya strength dia adalah written as a question. Yes, it is in a question mark form. Okay, consider relationship among multiple concepts. For example, the relationship between internal and external effects or problem. And then this is the IV. Okay, and then the DV is children witnessing domestic violence. Okay, ini dia punya DV. Okay, and then contains a population which is children witnessing domestic violence. And then consider relationship among multiple concepts. Ni tak, tiga ni written as a question. Considers relationship among multiple concepts. Contains a population. Okay, tapi dia punya weaknesses not clearly focused. Okay, and then not specific and clear about the concept it address. So what the concept ni, meaning that what are the internal and external effect ni, dia tak tahu apa. Okay, so meaning that we are not clear. So the proposed alternative for the research question should be, okay, how does witnessing domestic violence impact a child's romantic relationship in adulthood, for example. Okay, so dia ada perkataan impact kat sini. Okay, the word impact ni, the word that we use, okay, will also imply or reflect the design that we are going to use. Biasanya kalau kita guna perkataan impact ni, the design ni will be experimental. Okay, impact ni, it's a very powerful word in quantitative research. Okay, next one, what causes foster children who are transitioning to adulthood to become homeless, jobless, pregnant, unhealthy, and etc. Okay, so dalam ni juga it contains a it consider relationship among multiple concept. Ada beberapa konsep dalam ni. okay, contains a population, okay, which is the population is foster children, okay, and then but not written as a yes or no question. Maksudnya dia still dalam bentuk yang sangat broad. Okay, so the then dia punya weaknesses, concept are not specific and clear, meaning that within this statement we couldn't identify what are the DVs and IVs. Okay, but kalau kita tengok kat sini banyak sangat tak tahu ni DV ke IV. Okay, and then the proposed alternative, what is the relationship between sexual orientation or gender identity and homeless for late adolescent in foster care. So kat sini kita nampak the IVs and the DV. Okay. Next one, how does income inequality predict ambivalence in the stereo content model using major US cities as target population? So this one, the strength dia adalah written as a question, yes. Considers relationships among multiple concepts, yes. Okay, and then dia punya weaknesses, unclear wording. Okay, and then in terms of population, it does not mention or specify the population of the study. Okay, and then the proposed alternative, how does income inequality affect ambivalence in high density urban areas? Okay, the next one, why are mental health rates higher in white foster children than African Americans and other races? Okay, so in terms of dia punya strength, okay, it is written as a question. Okay, but this one not written as a yes or no question. Okay, meaning that it is in descriptive form. Okay, it requires answer to be given in descriptive or explanation form. Okay, so in terms of weaknesses, okay, the concept are not clear in that. Ni saya tertinggal apa ni? Does not contain a population, sorry. Does not contain a population. Why are mental rates higher in ada population ni? Sorry nanti saya check balik apa saya tertinggal kat sini. Okay, and then proposed alternative. Okay, how does race impact rates of mental health diagnosis for children in foster care? So kalau kita tengok on the proposed alternative, it is very clear, both IVs and DV. Okay, and then as well as the population. Okay, any questions so far? Just the tips for those who preparing the research question for your quantitative study. So make sure when you arrange your research question, you start with the descriptive research question, follow with the explanatory quantitative research question. Okay, kita start dengan research question yang in which we will answer the question based on the most simple data analysis first, followed with the one with higher level of data analysis. Okay, because I know that everybody already attended the statistic class, so I assume everybody aware that the highest level of statistics is apa dia? What is the highest level of statistics? What is the highest level of analysis in statistics? Tak attend kan? Anybody can answer my question?
Tak belajar lagi, Dok.
Tak belajar lagi? Oh, ini payah ni. So supposedly when you are in your third semester, you should already attended your statistic class. Sepatutnya.
Semester, Doktor.
Oh,
second semester, Doktor.
Oh, second semester. Oh, ni payah juga ni. Okay, so the highest level of analysis in statistics is regression. After regression, there is no more. The most basic analysis is descriptive. Okay, so later on, bila attend tu dah tahulah clue dia. Okay, so any question for quantitative research question so far? Ada Senang je ni. Okay, next one, qualitative research question. Please let me know if I'm too fast sebab kadang-kadang saya bercakap laju. Okay, so this one is qualitative research question. So qualitative research question is seek to explore or describe phenomena, not provide a neat normative explanation. Okay, so kalau dalam qualitative ni, by the nature, when you want to conduct a qualitative study ni, you want to explore or you want to understand the situation. So that's why when you write your research question, it should reflect the phenomena that you want to study. Okay, it's not just you want to specify in terms of the numbers. Okay, they may include only one concept or more than one. Okay, so different with quantitative study. When you want to prepare your research question, you should be very clear with the concept that you are going to study or that you are going to measure in quantitative study. Okay, but for qualitative research, you might not necessarily 100% clear of what the term or the concept means. Okay, and then you probably might want to understand one or more concept. Okay, so instead of asking how one variable causes change in another, in which this interest it is related to the interest in quantitative study. So for qualitative researcher, we are instead trying to understand the experiences, understandings, and meanings that people have about the concept in our research question. So bila kita conduct qualitative study ni, kita nak faham macam mana pengalaman seseorang tu, macam mana pemahaman seseorang tu, ataupun apakah maksud yang diberikan oleh seseorang tu terhadap fenomena that we want to discover. Okay. So qualitative question usually look different than quantitative questions because they search for ideographic causal relationship. Ideographic ni meaning that the unique experiences of an individual. Ini yang kita nak kaji. Okay, for quantitative researchers, we are not interested in the uniqueness of individual meaning. Okay, we are interested for generalization, something that apply to most of the people. But for qualitative study ni, kita nak kaji yang that minority ni. Okay, that minority. If let's say they think that this individual is different from majority, so what are those differences? Itu yang kita nak tahu. Okay, ideographic ni meaning that the uniqueness of the individual. Okay. Itu yang kita kata kalau Prof Ismi last time dia sebut multiple reality. Okay, individu ni dia ada pelbagai reality dia. Okay. Okay, and then characteristics of qualitative researchers. Okay, qualitative research, characteristic of qualitative RQ. Okay, qualitative RQ often ask about life experience, personal experience, understanding, meaning, and stories. Okay, kalau you all perasan the book of Doctors in the House. Okay, Doctors in the House. Itu adalah salah satu one of the a result of qualitative study, which is the specific name is biography. Okay, itu contoh satu kajian kualitatif. Okay, in which kajian tu dia hanya mengkaji cerita berkenaan Tun Mahathir. Stories dalam kajian tu dia melibatkan stories ni, penceritaan. Okay, so qualitative research question may be more general and less specific compared to quantitative. Okay, so instead of asking how one concept causes another, we are asking about how people understand or feel about a concept. For example, a concept of leadership. What does the term leadership ni means to general employees, for example? What does it mean? Apa maksud leadership ni? Okay, itu yang kita nak tahu. Okay, they can change. Qualitative research question may be they can change over the course of a study. So macam yang kita cakap last time, qualitative research ni is a reflexive process. Dia akan berubah. Dia boleh ter-evolution. Okay, so the research question in qualitative ni pun dia boleh berubah according to the suitability with our respondent. Okay, so that's why one in which the researcher adapt their approach based on what participants says and do. Because selagi kita tak masuk lapangan, selagi kita tak masuk ke field, we might not know the true story related to our informant. So bila kita masuk, when we start our pilot study, barulah kita tahu how we can adjust our research question or research protocol to suit with our informant. Okay, itu untuk qualitative. But for quantitative, before you enter the field, you should already have that set of RQ and objective. Kita dah ada the predetermined. Okay, dan the predetermined ni biasa kita tak ubah dah for quantitative. Okay?
Naomi,
Yes.
kalau is there any specific word or any specific keywords to differentiate between the quali and quanti punya research question?
Hold on L1 next.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
so this are the example Okay, so for quantitative research question, for example, so we ask, how does witnessing domestic violence impact a child's romantic relationship in adulthood? For qualitative research questions, so we might ask, how do people who witness domestic violence understand how it affects their current relationships? So kalau kita tengok the quantitative ni dia more specific. What are the variables to be included? IV and DV. Okay, but for qualitative researcher ni, qualitative RQ ni, it requires the question to be answered through explanation. Dia tak boleh dalam bentuk item or questionnaire, cannot be. Okay, second one, what is the relationship between sexual orientation or gender identity and homeless for late adolescent in foster care? For qualitative, we might ask, what is the experience of identifying as PLHIV? PLHIV ni people living with HIV at the workplace. What are the experience? Is it bad? Is it challenging? So then perhaps the question ni, the short question ni, the answer will be in terms of process. Dia boleh jadi dalam bentuk proses. Okay. Next one, how does income inequality affect in ambivalence in high density urban areas? Next one, okay, for qualitative research, we might ask, what does racial ambivalence mean to residents of an urban neighborhood with high income inequality? Okay, the last one, how does race impact rates of mental health diagnosis for children in foster care? Then for qualitative research, probably we might ask, how do indigenous population, for example, orang asli, experience seeking help for mental health concerns? Nampak? Nampak tak beza dia? Kita tak nampak? Biasanya in quantitative research, the term impact, influence, relationships ni are among the keywords that can differentiate between quant and quant. Okay, impact ni dia akan reflect, as what I said just now, impact ni dia akan reflect design dia adalah experimental. Influence ni it can be experimental or correlational study. Okay, tapi kalau dalam kuali ni dia jarang ada perkataan effect ni jarang. Okay, but in overall, okay, the question structure tu will ask the respondent or informant to answer the question in explanatory form, in descriptive form. Faham Boleh Beza dia nampak tak? Okay.
Doktor.
Yes.
Doktor, maksudnya kalau for qualitative tak boleh tidak mesti kena by interview.
Okay, interview.
Wajib ke?
Okay, interview, questionnaire, document review, apa lagi? What else? Document review, interview, survey. It is not belongs to one specific design. No, it's just a methods for data collection. In qualitative study, then you can also apply the survey, the questionnaire. In quantitative study, you also can conduct the interview. Dua-dua boleh. Okay, you all jangan confuse yang kalau quali mesti interview. It's not necessary. Okay, tak semestinya sebab all those things adalah means for data collection. Okay, so if let's say you conduct the qualitative study, cuma kadang-kadang when you want to prepare a questionnaire for qualitative study, it is not suitable to ask your question, the question such as like this. Are you already eat? Faham tak? For qualitative. Because qualitative ni by nature, it is exploring. So therefore, the question yang kita nak tulis dalam the question that we want to write in our questionnaire ni should be something that is in explanatory form, which is open-ended. Kalau kuanti, kalau dalam bentuk yes or no ni, dia dalam bentuk close-ended. So that's why, tapi bila kita prepare questionnaire dalam bentuk open-ended, when we prepare the questionnaire in open-ended question, okay, in which it requires further explanation by researcher, so therefore it is not suitable if let's say you distribute your questionnaire for self-administered informant. That's why lah dia biasanya digunakan interview. Kan? You all bayangkan kalau you all submit survey questionnaire yang ada soalan macam ni. How do indigenous population, for example orang asli, experience seeking help for mental health concern? You distribute questionnaire without your without your appearance there, without your presence there. Rasanya responden kita boleh jawab tak ni?
Tak lah, macam it's very hard for them. So
Tapi,
we need to probe.
We need to
more.
probe. That's why most of the time we use interview. But in quantitative pun sometimes it is also applicable to use interview. But just it will be a little bit challenging to analyze data in wording form for quantitative study. Tapi for qualitative study, okay, if you want to use questionnaire, it is possible, but make sure if you want to use the questionnaire, it is self-explanatory. Self-explanatory. Maksudnya kalau you all distribute the questionnaire, your respondents are able to understand the question without any assistance from other people. Faham tak? Itu ada tapi kena faham itu hanyalah means untuk data collection, tapi tak ada mana-mana belongs to design. Okay? Faham
Doktor.
Yes.
Doktor, kalau questionnaire tu dalam bahasa Melayu, kan? Kemudian kita buat research kita dalam bahasa Inggeris. Boleh ke?
Okay. So saya jawab macam ni. Okay, saya jawab macam ni the research proposal belongs to researcher. Okay, but when you distribute your questionnaire, you need to make sure that your informant truly understand your question. Okay, that's why I said that make sure it suit or fit with your respondent. If your respondent more fluent in Malay, then it's okay to distribute your questionnaire in Malay. Okay, if let's say your respondents are Chinese, then you should prepare your questionnaire in Mandarin according to their preference. Okay, doesn't matter. The report is your report. Respondent tak baca pun. Okay, but the question tu must suit or must fit with your respondent. Buat apa kita tanya soalan tapi responden kita tak boleh jawab?
Itu that's the issue. So there is no problem if we do the questionnaire in multiple language.
Multiple language pun dia depend. It is not compulsory for you to prepare your the questionnaire in Dwi language or Dwi bahasa every time you want to distribute the questionnaire. Not necessary. It depends on your respondent. You know best who are your respondent because you are the researcher. If let's say your respondents are those officers grade 48 and above, for example. So we have the assumption that they shouldn't have any problems in English. So then you can prepare your questionnaire just in English. Tapi kalau kita tahu yang responden kita adalah amongst the aunties, uncles and so on, which dia punya education attainment is low. So then other than preparing the questionnaire in Malay, so probably we need to also prepare research assistant that can read the question for them. Itu pun possible. It depends on our respondent. Paling penting depend pada respondent kita. Okay, is there any more question?
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, so next one we proceed with the research objective. So what is research objective? It is a sentence that states what the study is investigating. It allows the reader to quickly identify the research topic for the study. Okay, so these are the details explanation on research objective for quantitative research. Most qualitative researcher, they didn't, bukan most, so far as what I see, observe, okay, qualitative researcher, they rely on research question instead of quantitative, instead of objective. But for quantitative researcher, they might write both RQ as well as the RO, research objective. Tapi quali, they rely on research question. Okay, so this one explanation ni saya mau kepada kuanti lah. Okay, so it is a purpose statement for quantitative studies focus on the variables, participants, and the specific location where you are going to investigate your problem area. So when you mention your objective for quantitative study, make sure in your statement you include the IVs and DV. Okay, your IVs and DV or the studied variable, your participant or the population, and the specific location. Okay, where you are going to investigate your study. Okay, and then quantitative purpose statement allows us to identify the unit of analysis. Unit of analysis ni apa? What is the unit of analysis? The unit of analysis ni refers to the group that our conclusion of the study will belongs to. Siapa nanti bila kita complete our study later on, the conclusion ni belongs to whom? The findings ni belongs to whom? To whom we are going to make conclusion with. Okay, so according to baby ni dia kata this is the who or what you are studying. It's the things we are examining that allows us to create summaries or make inferences based on them. So ini dia punya unit of analysis. In which unit of analysis ni it will link to your chapter 3 actually. When you identify your sample and population, you should also determine who are or what are your unit of analysis. Okay. So unit of analysis ni can be individuals, can be groups, can be organization. Okay, and then alamak tak nampak. Dia boleh jadi individu, kumpulan ataupun organisasi. Anything. Okay, so while you will not specifically state the unit of analysis, it's critical that it is inferred and related to what you want to measure in order to keep from making invalid or erroneous conclusion. So make sure lah untuk mengelakkan kesebaran kekeliruan ni, it is supposed you should have your unit of analysis. For example, when you want to conduct the study among the public servant officer. Okay, public servant officer. So your group, your unit of analysis will be public servant officer individual or group, or organization. Mana satu? If your study related to work performance, for example, among work performance among public servant officer. Siapa dia kita punya, what is our unit of analysis based on that statement?
Group.
Group. Yes, group. Okay. Then kalau let's say proactive work behavior among secondary school teachers.
Individual.
Dia confused sikit. Individual, doktor.
Itu individu lagi. So that one group lagi. Group of teachers. Okay, most of quantitative study ni dia akan guna that one. Dia akan guna group most. But as what I explained earlier, quantitative study ni the analysis is based on the group, not individual. Okay, tapi dia ada juga contoh Johorian teachers are more effective compared to Negeri Sembilan teachers.
Group.
Marah Cikgu Negeri Sembilan ni.
Jangan marah contoh. Contoh. Jangan marah Cikgu Negeri Sembilan.
Group
Group
doktor.
juga.
Group ke organisation? Group ke
Organization.
Nah, organisation.
Dia bila when you include the elements of district, for example, or state, ataupun you divide your respondent to according to state, it's possible it's based on organisation.
Oh.
Ada case. So based on that kita akan tengok mana sebenarnya. Sebab kalau overall, kalau the whole tu barulah dia akan jadi group. Tapi ni kita divide ikut location pula. Another example, manufacturing employees are more efficient compared to public service officers. Saya tahu Pak ramai kat sini. Ni contoh bukan kat sini. Dekat Thailand contoh. Contoh jangan terasa tahu. Saya pun public service juga. Saya bagi contoh supaya kita nampak.
Organization.
Itu organisation. Ya, you all jangan terasa hati tahu nak raya ni tahu.
Tak, dah biasa dah doktor.
Contoh tak.
Saya boleh minta maaf.
No, I'm not condemning sebab saya pun public officer juga. Jangan terasa. Contoh je contoh. Mana yang datang dalam kepala cepat.
That one clear, doctor. If you said that manufacturing and public is clear that it was we can differentiate into organization.
The second one tadi, okay, sebab apa? Sebab dia memang still we include teachers, but we are comparing the two state. It's just like we are comparing teachers from different district, ataupun we compare. Another thing is we compare teachers from private or government. Contohnya, dia still teachers, tapi we are comparing that institution actually. Faham tak?
Sebab kita ada dua entiti.
Yes, dua identiti tu. Kita membezakan dia tu.
Okay.
Faham
Walaupun dia guru sekolah, maksudnya bukan private school. Tapi because it different location.
Different location, yes.
Oh.
Sebab later on bila nak nanti tu kita belajar dalam sampel pula. Nanti ada lagi detail explanation. Okay, next one, purpose statements are also identify the independent and dependent variables in our study as what I mentioned earlier. Okay, and then
Doktor.
Yes.
Sorry. Tadi kalau individual pula macam mana? So straightforward, just mention the name or
the individual ni contoh biasanya mostly dalam kualitatif lah, Qualitative ni, as what we know, we cannot make generalization to the population because the main intention is to study the uniqueness of our informant. So that's why bila kita buat finding tu, okay, the finding tu only applicable to the sample of our study. Faham tak? For example, you want to study leadership. What does the leadership means among support staff group? Contohnya. Support staff group ni, support staff besar dah. What does the leadership means? Sorry, saya tukarlah. Ni, saya guna this one. What is the experience of identifying SPL HIV at the workplace? So in which not many people are PLHIV, one thing. Tak ramai. Ada tapi tak ramai. And then the PLHIV that probably included in our study are only around 5 or 6 people. So that's why later on the unit of analysis kita adalah dia bukan group but the individual people living with HIV. Faham tak? The findings ni only applicable to those 5 or 6 involved in our study. Tapi kita tak boleh applykan dekat ke the whole group or the population of PLHIV in Malaysia. Kita in which our study we just use around 5 or 6 for example. So the finding yang kita dapat ni, the conclusion ni only applicable to those involved, which is these people, these 6 people. These 6 people ni they have their own opinion. Faham tak? Ada yang sama, ada yang berbeza. Faham? So
kalau contoh dia punya tajuk, doktor?
Contoh dia punya tajuk, for example dia punya tajuk kat sini understanding experience of identifying at SPLHIV lah at workplace. Ataupun exploring the experience of PLHIV in Malaysia. Contoh. understanding the experience of people living with HIV in Malaysia, related to work ke, tu tambahlah sikit supaya nampak jelas lagi. Tapi the main thing is kita nak tahu dia punya experience in which people living with HIV ni, as what I said, dia sikit. Okay, and then what we include in our study, we purposely select our respondent yang 5 ke 6 tadi tu, 5 to 6 tadi, dia compared to yang quantitative study, dia adalah kita choose by group, tapi in which we use random. Tapi yang untuk quali ni kita guna purposive, kan? We select the sample yang mana yang kita rasa senang dapat, because I know that it is very difficult to get people with to get people from this group. Susah. Tak ramai nak mengaku dia adalah seseorang yang ada HIV, yang bekerja. Betul tak? Faham tak? Boleh tak differentiate? Ke ada lagi masalah?
Betul, meaning that qualitative research ni memang based on our respondent lah. Kalau 6 orang PLS HIV tadi, the research is around dia punya experience.
Yes.
Apa environment yang dia layanan yang diterima, itu yang kita nak tunjukkan lah.
Betul. Yes. Dia hanya
Maknanya doktor, untuk kuanti jaranglah individu kan?
Jarang. Kuanti jarang. Mostly sama ada group by group or organisation, the unit of analysis ni. Okay?
So doctor, do we have a minimum maximum number of people or individual that we want to identify, whether it is individual or grouping?
Quali or quanti?
Kita ada tak? Sebab kita nak bezakan between individual, group dengan organisation, kan? Dia ada minimum maximum number of ni tak?
Okay, in terms of maximum or minimum number, it depends on the design. Okay, it depends on the design, qual or quant that you use. Okay, and then lagi satu saya nak bagi tahu tadi apa kejap dia ada lagi satu point. Allahu Akbar.
Untuk kuali ke doktor?
Dia macam gini. Okay, for bukan, saya nak jawab apa tadi tapi saya dah terlupa clue tu. Okay, in terms of size, to differentiate between, okay, ingat dah. Okay, for individuals ni dia mostly it is applied when our study ni focusing on the individual. Our study focus on individual voice. Okay, that's why it is rarely been used in quantitative. Sebab apa? Sebab in quantitative, okay, the analysis of our findings tu based on group. We have no interest to identify our respondent tu based on individual. Okay, kita tak ada minat pun. Kita nak tahu by group. Group dia apa dia? Okay, for quali ni sebabnya kita tak the main interest for qualitative study from the very beginning, we have no intention to make any generalization. Kita tak ada niat pun, tak ada minat pun nak buat generalization. Okay, most of the time kita buat qualitative study ni because we want to understand their unique experience. Kita nak faham individu tu punya experience. Sebab apa? Sebab there is still no past study that inform us related to their experience. Sebab tu kita kaji. Kuanti ni sebenarnya kajian yang sebenarnya dah banyak. Tapi kita nak reconfirm. That's why kalau last time saya cakap quantitative study ni it is related to confirmatory study. Nak confirmkan teori. Benda dah ada tapi kita nak confirmkan lagi teori tu. Okay. Qualitative ni dia more kepada exploratory. Kita nak explore sebab kita tak tahu lagi. Faham Boleh? Ada lagi soalan? Okay, in terms of sample size. Sample size tadi. Dia depends on design. Okay, kita tak boleh nak determine. Sebab kalau dalam quali, the minimum number can be, the minimum number of sample can be 1. Okay. The minimum number for sample in qualitative study can be 1. For example, the book of Doctors in the House. The informant dia only 1. There is no issue of saturation because the researcher only interested to study that individual, that person, which is Tun Mahathir only.
Same goes kalau kita nak study angkasawan, satu juga kita punya informant kan, doktor?
Possible.
For Malaysia lah, angkasawan dekat Malaysia, Dr. Syed Muzaffar je lah kan?
Yes, possible. Itu saja.
Boleh ke doktor buat tajuk dissertation pasal ni Syed Muzaffar?
Apa dia? Apa dia Syaril?
Boleh ke buat tajuk dissertation pasal boleh?
The experience of Sheikh Muzaffar. Boleh. One respondent. Boleh. Okay. The minimum, the maximum tu dia depends on data saturation, in which we will discuss in sample size section later. Okay, for Quali.
Doktor, how about dia punya literature review? Makna we go for anything related to astronaut lah, dia punya.
Yes, astronaut, but make sure you link it to HRD lah. Astronaut boleh lah.
Okay.
Okay.
Pengurusan HRD di angkasa.
Betul. Ataupun how to develop a future astronaut. From experience of Okay. Okay, so what is research objective dah? Ni dah lah laju. Okay. Okay, ni pun group. Okay, ni contoh nanti you all boleh tengok this one. Banyak, mostly group. Group ni pun group ni, unit of analysis ni, group of students. Okay, group. Ni pun group juga. Okay, ni contoh siapalah tengok kat sini. Okay, so for example, the purpose of this study is to determine if different types of teacher feedback affect a 5th grade student's motivation and achievement. Contoh, this is the objective. So, kita try pecahkan satu-satu. So, the DV is, the DV is student's motivation and achievement. Okay, and then IV. The DV is students' motivation and achievement, independent variable, different types of feedback, for example, graphical and traditional report cards. Respondent kita adalah 5th grade students. Okay, unit of analysis are groups of students. Okay, location and elementary school in Dade County, Florida. Contoh. Okay, walaupun dia tak nyatakan yang tu, tapi sepatutnya dinyatakan lah. Okay. And then the purpose, next one, the purpose of this study is to investigate the effect of corporal punishment on the achievement of high school students. The IV is corporal punishment. Okay. The DV is overall achievement of high school student. The respondent, group of students. Okay, sorry. The respondent student. Okay. The unit of analysis groups. So in which we are interested to look at the overall achievement of high school students falling into one group or the other. Okay. Okay, this is the example of quantitative purpose statement script. This one kita boleh tengok dalam journal or articles yang quantitative punya design. Okay, ini contoh. Okay, but when you mention, saya ada kot kat sini. Ada tak? Ada. Tadi saya explain. This one for articles lah for article. Okay, biasanya artikel kalau if you want to identify the research objective in a research article, so inilah dia punya the keyword that will be used in the article. Okay. Okay, next one, qualitative statement of objective or purpose. Ini saya explain juga tapi sikit. Okay, so in qualitative studies, you will include the participants and location, but instead of focusing on a specific set of variable, your focus will be on the major issue. We call this as central phenomenon. There will be no IV or DVs, IVs or DV. It's just your central phenomenon. Okay, and then you arrange your objective ni from the descriptive to the more complex one. For example, leadership. You want to know the meaning of leadership among secondary school teachers, for example. So then you start with what is the definition of leadership for among secondary school teachers. Okay, and then probably the second research question you state as what are the process or what are the styles of leadership among school teachers. What are the process to be the most accurate, the most outstanding leaders in school setting, for example. Kita arrange tu ikut level of description yang kita akan dapat daripada responden kita. Okay. So for example, if you are interested in better understanding why there are so few female undergraduate math majors, your script could be, the purpose of this study will be to understand the life experiences of female math majors at Pleasantville University. So at this stage in the research, life experiences will be defined as events that female math majors feel may have influenced their choice of major. So kita punya, dia punya interest ni nak tahu life experiences of female math majors ni yang ambil maths ni. Okay, kita nak faham dia punya life experience. So life experiences ni, so probably what are the difficulties or challenges that they face. Mungkin to get the opportunity itself. Itu mungkin jawapan yang kita akan dapat, limited opportunity. Contoh dia punya experience. Okay. Ini dia punya script for qualitative research objective. Biasanya qualitative research objective ni dia tak banyak macam quanti. Okay, dia satu objektif je, to understand what. Okay. Ni example. The purpose of this study is to understand the life experiences of female math major. Okay, so dia punya respondent female. Okay, unit of analysis individual. Individual The location, dia punya tempat lah. Next one, the purpose of this study is to better understand widow or divorced senior citizen perception of online relationship website. Okay, respondent widow or divorced senior citizen, unit of analysis individual, location, mana-mana yang ter-apply lah. Okay, any questions so far? Am I too fast? Clear? Tak clear? Yes.
I'm not sure whether this question is related to this topic or not, but I just want to know, bila kita menulis, last week Doctor did share about the academic phrase book, something like that. Phrase bank yang tu. Kemudian macam ada setengah orang penulisan dia macam bila dia biasa tulis minit mesyuarat teks ucapan, it's very difficult to match the lenggok bahasa, the laras bahasa between the academic and normal punya macam normal punya writing lah. So is it okay sometimes bila baca balik kita punya perenggan tu macam aku ni bagi ucapan ke macam mana ke?
Okay. So when doing research, when doing research, do not imagine like you are preparing a report or you are preparing a book. Because I have experience last time with one student ni before he prepared while preparing his draft, he is preparing a book, not just a book, multiple books, meaning that he want to include everything in the document, in the proposal. Okay. So as what I said, when you want to prepare your document or draft or thesis dissertation, make sure it is specific and it is connected only to your studied variable or studied central phenomenon. Okay, jangan ingat kita boleh includekan semua benda. Sejarah tu, so make sure stay focus dekat apa yang kita nak. Saya faham. Memang kadang-kadang kita rasa when we go through the literature and we think that everything are connected to our study. But you need to keep reminding yourself what is your focus. Kalau tak, sampai bila you all tak habis. Okay, it's very dangerous. Okay, sebab bila when you open your door too large, buka besar sangat, it is very difficult to close. Sangat susah. Okay, that's why I come up with the reference by using the phrase bank too, so that you can use that one as keywords. Because even when you read the articles, okay, when you already aware about this keyword, it can help you looking for your proposed objective. For example, if you are interested to look for statement of problem, so then after you identify this keyword, you can easily address the statement of problem within that article. So tak perlu nak baca keseluruhan artikel tu. Faham tak? Dia skill menulis tu sama dengan skill kita nak mencari. Okay, and for example, another thing, if you are looking for theory, then tak perlulah you all baca the whole article to look for the theory. You just go to the specific location to find the theory. Faham? Sebab bila kita nak buat academic writing ni, dia bukan sahaja kita kena ada ilmu. Satu ilmu yang kita tahu, lagi satu kena ada skill. Dua-dua kena ada. Okay? So saya ajar dua-dua, knowledge dengan skill. Boleh LLY dia memang susah mula-mula. Daripada kita yang yes, menulis kita biasa menulis panjang-panjang sebenarnya dia tak nak pun. Sikit je yang berkait. Tapi keep trying, insya-Allah. Okay, so this is the types of research objective. This is specific to your dissertation lah for quantitative research. Type of research objective for quantitative research. If you follow this format, then you shouldn't have any problem. Okay, so when you prepare the quantitative research objective, you're supposed to have two types of objective. The first one is general research objective. General research objective means that it is in general form. It does not specify your IVs. It just specify your DV or central phenomena. Okay, for example, the general objective of this study is to examine factors that influence individual safety behavior at work. So in which inilah general dia. Sebab apa? We does not specify our IVs. Okay, we just specify the DV. Okay, for quantitative researcher, you should know your DV. And then your DV ni kalau boleh satu sahaja. Unless you are interested to stay for 2 or 3 years more in UPM. Okay, kalau rasa nak duduk lama kat UPM, bolehlah tambah DV lagi. Okay, kalau rasa nak lepas ni nak masuk kerja dah, kita letak satu cukup. Okay, so the specific research objective, then only then you specify your IVs. Okay, so as what I said earlier, when you arrange your specific research objective, you start with the one that will be related to the lowest level of statistic, which is descriptive. Okay, for example, to determine the level of individual safety behavior at work among employees in a manufacturing company. That one is the first objective. The second objective, to determine the level of training and preventive action and competence among employees in a manufacturing company. Okay, sama juga these two ni descriptive analysis lah. Third one, to determine the relationships between training and preventive action and competence with individual safety behavior at work among employees in a manufacturing company. The last one, to examine the influence of training and preventive action and competence with individual safety behavior at work among employees in a manufacturing company. Okay, so ini dia punya susunan dia. Start from descriptive. Ni pun the second one pun descriptive, the third one correlation, the last one is regression. Okay. Ni ilmu ekstra lah saya bagi ni. Okay. Next one, characteristics of research objective. So first, it should be in logical sequence. Logical sequence ni, for example tadilah from descriptive, simple one to the complex one. From the simple statistical analysis to the complex statistical analysis, either for qual or quant. Okay, it should be very clear and unambiguous that what is to be done. Okay, it should be ethical and do not cause physical or psychological injury to anyone or environment. But I thought if you got your JKE approval, then shouldn't be any problem lah. It should outline the scope of research. It should give the clear picture of how to perform investigation. Okay, sebab tu saya kata bab 1 you all sebenarnya dah connected to your chapter 3. Your chapter 1 already connected to your chapter 2 and chapter 3. From chapter 1, you already can reflect what will be in your chapter 2 and chapter 3. Okay? Next one. Ni some language expression for statement of general purpose. Ni dalam phrase bank tu lah ada dalam tu. Okay. Any questions so far? Kejapnya dah pukul 7 ke? Tak apa. Berapa minit lagi? Sempat kot kita habiskan. Any question related to objective research question? Ada soalan? Ada. Dia tak ada diam tu dua je, sama ada betul-betul faham ataupun dah tertinggal ke belakang. Tak apa, kalau tertinggal nanti kita bagi tahu balik. Okay, so next one is research hypothesis. So as a reminder, research hypothesis only applicable for quantitative researchers. Okay, research hypothesis ni, it is a requirement in quantitative research. Okay, particularly when you have intention to make generalization from sample to the population. Okay, so a hypothesis ni is a statement expressing the researcher's belief about an event that has occurred or will occur. Okay, so hypothesis ni it is related to an early assumption made by researcher after review the literature. Okay, after review the literature means after you review your past studies and theories, then you propose the hypothesis. Okay. So there are different ways to stating hypothesis depending on the type of study that we are conducting. So we also need a good understanding of the direction of hypothesis as well as learn why statisticians always test hypothesis stated in the null format. Okay. Purpose of hypothesis brings together information to enable the researcher to make a tentative statement about how the variables in the study may be related. Sebab apa kita perlu ada hypothesis ni? Because when we conduct the quantitative study ni, there is something that we want to prove. There's something that we want to prove. Okay, so that's why when you conduct the quantitative study, you need to already review your literature thoroughly. Compared to qualitative researcher, not necessarily you review your literature thoroughly, but make sure you review the significant studies. But for quantitative study researcher, make sure it is compulsory for you to review your literature thoroughly. Okay. Okay, so hypothesis propose tentative explanation for phenomena. So therefore, it stimulates a research endeavor that result in the accumulation of new knowledge. Okay, so the hypothesis provide the investigator with a relational statement that is directly testable in a research study. So maksudnya when the statement of hypothesis ni mestilah dalam bentuk relational. So we relate two things, the IVs and the DV. Okay, and then make sure it is testable. Kita tak boleh propose something yang mitos, yang tak boleh dikaji sebagai hypothesis. Okay. So the hypothesis provides direction to the research. The hypothesis provides a framework for reporting the findings and conclusion of the study. Okay. Okay, so these are the characteristics of a usable hypothesis. So hypothesis states the expected relationship between variables. Apa yang kita expect? Is there any significant relationship? Is there any significant differences between the two groups? Okay, so for example, a hypothesis must be testable, meaning that the selection of variables must be able to be tested. Make sure kita tak kaji sesuatu yang tak boleh dikaji. Contohnya kenapa awan biru? Contoh. Kenapa something yang spiritual ke yang memang kita tak boleh fikir. Okay, so hypothesis should be consistent with the existing body of knowledge. So make sure the proposed hypothesis is consistent with your theory as well as past study. Kena consistent. Okay, the hypothesis should be stated as simply and concisely as possible. Jangan wordy sangat. Straight to the point. Kita nak apa? Okay. Okay, so there are two types of hypothesis. The first one is research or alternative hypothesis. The second one is null hypothesis. Ada dua jenis hypothesis, research hypothesis and null hypothesis. Okay, so research hypothesis ni is symbolized as HA. HA. And then some of you might ask me, doctor, if I have more than one hypothesis, then how should I write my hypothesis? You just add HA1, HA2, HA3, and so on. Okay, kalau you all ada lebih daripada satu. Okay, so it developed from observation, related literature, and theory. Ingat so hypothesis ni kita develop macam mana? Based on kita punya observation, mesti consistent with theory and consistent with past study. Okay, and then research hypothesis states the relationship one expect to find as a result of the research. It may be statement about the expected relationship or the expected difference between the variable. So bila kita nak tulis hypothesis ni, dia ada dua possibility. Either it is related to differences or relationship. Itu sahaja. Okay. So for example, there is a positive relationship between IQ and anxiety in elementary school children. Or children classified as having high IQs will exhibit more anxiety in the classroom than children classified as having low IQs. Ini contoh hypothesis. Okay, research hypothesis may be stated in a directional or non-directional form. Hypothesis ni sama ada research hypothesis or null hypothesis. It can be written in either directional or non-directional. So apa dia directional? Directional ni hypothesis that states the direction of the predicted relationship or differences. Contohnya, okay, contohnya there is a positive relationship. We already mentioned the direction of the relationship. So this one is referring to directional hypothesis. Okay. Another thing is deviance behavior is negatively correlated with employee performance, for example. So it is also a form of directional hypothesis because we specify the direction of the relationship. Okay. Meanwhile, okay, then a non-directional hypothesis ni states that a relationship or difference exists, but without specifying the direction or nature of the expected finding. For example, we just mentioned that there is a significant relationship between IQ and anxiety. That's all. We do not specify the direction. Either it is positive or negative. Itu adalah contoh non-directional hypothesis. Okay. Ini tak apa. Okay, so how do we know which one to be chosen for our study, directional or non-directional? Please refer to your literature. Based on the literature, what does they say? Is there any significant and positive relationship or negative, or they just mention that only significant relationship? Please follow your literature. Okay? So far so good?
Betul, for example, kalau literature kata working condition, bad working condition give bad work performance, for example. So kita work out based on that lah.
Yes, you can propose based on that. And another thing is you need to prepare your own analysis. First, you need to identify in the area how many related research are available. So for example, you found 50 articles related to the study, related to the variables of interest. Okay, contoh. Out of 50 ni, 30 articles said that there is a positive relationship. 5 mentioned that only significant relationship. Another 15 state that there is a negative relationship. So which one to follow?
Charity.
The majority. So maksudnya dia ada teknik kat situ lagi. Even though we follow the literature, but make sure you know exactly your own area. How many studies are available? How many stating that there is no direction? How many state directional hypothesis? Saja buat muka nak menakutkan orang.
Kita kena buktikan ke doktor yang 50 artikel tu nanti?
We not necessarily we have to prove it, but there is a tendency when when the reviewer look at your articles or look at your report, they might know that maybe significant finding or significant studies has been excluded in your area, in your report. So that's why researcher kena tahu semua benda berkenaan your variables, your DV particularly. The nature of your DV, what differentiate this, itu sebenarnya nanti. Okay, kita tak perlu prove, but based on your writing and your explanation tu, kita sepatutnya tahu. Okay, anything and everything about our variables. Okay, tapi jangan takut. Kita praktis dulu. Okay, the second types of research, the second type of hypothesis is null hypothesis, ataupun we use the symbol H naught, K-N-O-T, H naught, bukan N-O-T K-N-O-T, H naught. Okay, this is the hypothesis that is statistically tested. Okay, so just to inform everybody, when we conduct a quantitative study, the finding that we want is related to our research hypothesis. Okay, the research hypothesis is a finding that a researcher want. Okay, but the null hypothesis is the hypothesis that the researcher tests in research. Okay, null hypothesis ni adalah benda yang kita kaji dalam kajian kita. Research hypothesis adalah hipotesis yang penyelidik nak buktikan. Okay? So it is called the null hypothesis because it states that there is no relationship, no differences between the variables in the population. So basically null hypothesis ni we state it as something against that the researcher want. Okay? So a null hypothesis states a negation which is not the reverse of what the experimenter expect or predict. What is the point of the null hypothesis? Anybody ada idea tak kenapa kita perlu hypothesis?
Yes.
Apa dia?
To test kita punya assumption kan?
To test kita punya assumption. So if let's say we want to test our assumption, so all we need is just our nak berbuka dah. All we need is our research hypothesis. But why we also need to mention our null hypothesis? Kenapa? Kita ambil rule in court. A person considered unguilty until it is proven guilty. Maksudnya the relationship tu kita assume there is no relationship until it is proven that there is a relationship. That's why kita guna null hypothesis to be tested, not the research hypothesis. Saya habiskan ayat ni. Okay, a null hypothesis lets researcher assess whether apparent relationship are genuine or are likely to be a function of chance alone. Maksudnya bila kita ada null hypothesis ni, kita prove yang memang kalau ada hubungan tu memang ada hubungan. The relationship tu not just because of the error ataupun the chance. Chance ni the probability of error that exists when we conduct the study. Okay? Faham? Okay, kita stop kat situ lah hari ni. Dah berbuka dah. Okay, if you have any, is there any question?
No, Doctor, thank you.
Okay, so I thought we stop here. InsyaAllah, after Raya kita pulun panjang sikit. Lepas Raya saya akan cepat lajukan sikit insyaAllah. Saya akan replace baliklah kelas yang tertinggal. Okay, so selamat berbuka semua. So thank you so much. See you insyaAllah next week. Next week ada kelas
Thank you Dr.
Naomi.
Okay.
Next week kena raya.
Next week kena raya. Kita buatlah online.
Kampung lah doktor.
Boleh Doktor, no problem.
Tapi kalau let's say kalau tak nak nanti bagi tahu, nanti kita cari replacement. Okay, so thank you guys. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, thank you doktor.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, doktor.
Assalamualaikum.
Doktor.